We go to Tyson, and I remember it specifically. And this is how you know it still hurts, right? So I'm in the race, and I got thrown into the fire. This is like maybe heat number 3. I'm popping it off. Teammates are in the heat after. I'm popping it off, and we're all hype and amped. I'm in there in my head like, man, these cats aren't ready for me. Keep in mind, at this time, my season best was like 689. You're laughing too hard. Don't be laughing like this. 689. But you couldn't tell me nothing. I'm confident, feeling good, had a solid week of training. And then I knew something was wrong because the announcer started announcing personal best. Man in lane 1 was like 703. I'm like, oh, I know I can get him.
Wait. Oh, 703. Okay.
Yeah. Lane 2 was like 695. I'm like, he's getting closer, but I'm like, okay, I know I'm not gonna come last. And then things got real interesting where he said, and Jeff Demps was a personal best of 6'5". I said, oh, I look fast. I've never seen it in person. It sounds fast. I've never seen it. I don't know. Talked about Terrell Wilkes, person else is 6'6", Stanley Z 6'6". I'm like, yo, that sounds fast. Man, that man said, runners on your mark, stat, gun goes. I look up in 3 steps, and usually you're focusing on your race. Just run your race, show you're focused on your. I'm like, yo, Demps is moving. I'm like,
oh my,
he's moving. I'm like, yo, Terrell, look at his knee lift. Stanley is Z. I'm like, yo, he's just up. And I'm watching all of them because they're in lane 4, 5, and 6. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm running straight, but I'm like, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 2 of Run Your Race Show. I'm Akeem
and Chanelle.
We have a lot to discuss today, but first and foremost, thank you to everybody that has taken the time to like, comment, share, and definitely subscribe to the channel. We appreciate each of you. If you know someone that likes track and field, enjoys track and field, and likes to talk a little bit of life, then definitely subscribe to our channel. Share it with a friend, share it with their friend, grandparents, mothers, all that good stuff. Before we get going, Super Bowl, what'd you think about it?
Super Bowl weekend. It was good. I think it started off a little slow for my liking, but the second half, was entertaining. Definitely a close game, and shout out to the Chiefs. They pulled it off. But for me personally, the highlight was the Usher concert, the halftime show.
That was your Super Bowl.
Yes, that was. He brought out a lot of stars. That was surprising. It was very entertaining. I enjoyed it. I think he has so many hits that he couldn't really do any one song for too long, which was a little disappointing. But he just wanted to showcase his wide variety of hits. So I get it. But no, the game was good. The halftime show was good. What'd you think?
Yeah, halftime show was pretty good. It was a lot happening at the beginning. I was like, yo, where is this going? And I was, because one thing about Usher when he performs is that man gonna burn some calories.
He's sweating.
He was working, right? But he, like everybody that came out, everybody looked good. Like Usher still looks like similar to how he did when he was, when we were growing up listening to him. But as far as the game, I mean, as I said, a lot of the backstory stuff you hear, because I say it in real time. The one thing I kept saying is, I'm like, San Fran, you cannot just go drive the field and not score points. You have to score points, and not 3 points. You got to get touchdowns, because Patrick Mahomes is not a guy who you want to give an opportunity to come back. And as I said, this is looking real New England Patriotish. And so
you did say that.
So it was a good game. But at the end of the day, man, you cannot give Patrick Mahomes too much time, because he's going to make you pay every single time. So shout out to the Chiefs. I went to Barton Community College, and that was in Kansas, so I got a little ties to it. So shout out to them, man. Really enjoyed the game. And at the end of the day, that's really what it's about, especially from a spectator standpoint. Women want to see the halftime show more than anything. We actually want to see the game and everything else that comes with it. So let us know your thoughts on the Super Bowl halftime show. What was your favorite song, favorite thing? Let us know in the comment section below. We should probably get into the show.
Yeah, it's time to get in. Let's get in. Before we dive into the collegiate recap, the professional runners recap. Let's give a shout out to the high school athletes who have qualified for their state championships. Those state championships should be coming up in the next couple of weeks. So shout out to all of those high schoolers that made it. I remember it was always fun for me to go out to Penn State University as a high schooler and compete in the States. So really excited for those athletes. For those going who may feel a little overwhelmed, a little nervous, any advice? And also for those who didn't make it and are struggling with a little bit of disappointment taking that into the outdoor season, do you have advice for those athletes as well?
Yeah, let's first start with the ones who are going. See, it's different. You can talk about this more because in Canada, we don't got none of that. We just got outdoor and we keep it pushing. But for those who have the opportunity to go to the state championship meet and so forth, what I would say is do what got you there. I think a lot of times we get into these big meets, especially at the high school level, and we think we have to do more. We think we have to be more. We have to do more. When in reality, if you do what got you there, there's a good chance what got you there is going to put you in a position to win. So you can't get too focused on the moment and the magnitude of the event and where you are, that you forget that, man, if you set up a blocks a certain way the whole year, do that. If you're pushing the same with a certain year, do that. I think in championship times, especially as a high school athlete, you cannot get in your own head by thinking about external factors. Just do what got you there. In a pressure situation, just do what got you there. And generally, that's going to put you in a good position to be successful. What would you say? You have more experience at this than I do.
I think you said it. Do what got you there, and we talked about this. 60 meters is still 60 meters. 800 meters is still 800 meters. Just because the title state championship changes, just don't let the moment be too big. Do what got you there. I don't need to say anything else. You hit that right on the nail.
So when we talk about those that maybe fell a little bit short and didn't get the opportunity to actually go, what is some advice that you would give to them? Because it may seem like, it's over, the season's a wash. What would you say to those athletes?
Yeah, I would say, allow yourself some time to feel that disappointment. You're human. You're allowed to feel emotions. You're allowed to feel those and have those negative thoughts, but you can't stay there too long. After a few days, it's time to regroup and realize that outdoor is right around the corner. So, take a step back, see what you set some goals for outdoor, and then set some tangible steps to get to those goals. So it's just about evaluating where you are and then setting some key actions to get you to where you want to be, and work with your team, work with your coaches, your parents, whoever's in your support system. But just regroup and focus on outdoor now.
Yeah, 100%. I like when you said you feel what you feel, and that's completely right, man. You know me, we come from different backgrounds, and I always say a little pain is good for the soul. So when you are seeing people that maybe your teammates, and you're like, man, you're rooting for them, but there's something inside of you that's saying, that could have been me. One, don't feel bad about that, because it can be you. You train with them, you know what it takes. And so sometimes you need to feel a little bit of pain to remember why you don't want to feel that pain again. And so for me, that's what I would say is remember this feeling. And so take this feeling into your training as you're working towards outdoors and say, you know what, I'm a little bit tired on this rep, but I remember what it felt like to not be there. So that can give me that extra push and encouragement to help me kill this set. So not making it there is not the worst. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later. I didn't make an indoor nationals indoors, like not once. You have, I haven't. I felt that pain, still feel that pain. And it helped me push me forward, remembering those moments when I was tired in training. So use this as motivation and fuel, but definitely take time to think to yourself, man, yeah, that doesn't feel good. Like this feeling sucks. But don't let that feeling be poison. Allow that feeling to be a nice glass of lemonade to refresh you, because it'd be hot outdoors in some of these states, and let it refresh you and fuel you to get better and to progress forward. So shout out to everybody at high school state championships, man, is going. That's that's great, right? Do your thing. And for those that didn't quite get there, man, let that not be your story in the outdoor season. Because if they made it there, there's a great, great chance that you can as well. So don't get discouraged.
That's good. So, big weekend of collegiate running. The collegiates are, rounding into shape, and we know why. Conference is coming up, and we know personally how big conference championships is for NCAA schools. The collegiates were all over the map this weekend: Arkansas, New Mexico, Boston, Texas Tech, just to name a few of the places that they ran. What stood out to you?
Man, I'm going sprint heavy this week. I really like what was going on at Texas Tech this weekend. I mean, 60s were rolling. Like this group is rolling. And since we're talking about Texas Tech specifically, that's 60. I mean, 6:47 is a time. Right. Terrence Jones, 60-meter champ last year. So he's got some defending to do.
Oh, he won.
Yeah, he won last year. I think he ran 6:46.
Okay.
So 6:46 is his personal best. 6:47 is what he ran this weekend. So he's getting back into shape, getting back into groove, and he's looking good. He's a very talented athlete, man. He's a guy who can run 60 to 200 meters, probably the 4x4 if he really needs to for the squad. But then you have his teammate, DeAndre Swint, who ran 6:49 as well. It's hard not to run well when you have a stablemate like that right next to you. And they also have another guy who ran 6'5" as well too. Like, that's a squad. But we can't forget about the third place finish, Kalen Walker from Iowa as well too, coming in with 6:51. So I mean, being able to put together times like this in this season, it's February. NCAA's is next month. Conference is 2 weeks from now. So the fact that they're able to put this type of performance together, Terrence Jones ran the fastest time this week. So for me, that was something that really stuck out to me. I mean, you have three young athletes sub 652
from the same school. But what do you say to those people that say, oh, well, they're at home, they're at Texas Tech?
Yes.
They did it at home. Can they next month rise to the occasion and do it when they're not at home, when they are in a high pressure situation at indoor NCAAs?
I was thinking about that as well too. And here's the thing with us being able to be in two different things, being in the sport, right, and having things like this come up, but now being on the spectator standpoint, you got to ask those questions, because there are people who are going to say, man, you guys just did it at home. Like, anybody can do it at home. You get to sleep in your own bed. You get to eat the food that you like to eat, right? You get to shower in your own place. You can go to the track. You warm up at the same track. If it's too packed, you probably know another track where you can get to. It's your home. And so in this position, you're thinking to yourself, man, those points are valid, but you can't feed into what the outside world is saying. But you have to know that there's going to be those questions of people say they can't do it at home. Well, Terrence Jones, he's done it away from home. He's the champ, defending champ. So it's not letting the outside noise get into your head, because people are always going to say you can't do it again. And in track, especially in sprinting, well, my group said, if you can't do it 3 times, you're not really that athlete. You're not really that time that you ran. So there are people who are going to say you only did it at home. You went to Texas Tech. That's where you can only do it. Well, you can't listen to that. As an athlete, you have to compartmentalize the outside noise, let that slide, and know what is happening in your camp, in your training, and knowing that I can do it anywhere. And that's the most important thing. So don't worry about the outside voices. Just focus on executing your race. And the more you execute, the more you prepare, you can do it anywhere if you don't let them get up here.
That's good. That's good.
So for you, what was the highlight for you in the collegiate side of things? Because, man, there was some serious things happening this weekend.
Yeah, well, you were a little biased. You went with your event.
Absolutely.
I'm a little biased. I'm going with my event, the women's 800. Shout out to Michaela Rose, LSU. Ran 159 and some change. The second fastest time ever in the NCAA. She did this in Boston. Amazing track over there. And yeah, I that's just, I'm not just picking it because it's the 8. I'm picking that because that is a fast time, 1:59 in February. So I can tell you're looking forward to the 60, the men's 60 at indoor NCAAs. Well, I'm looking forward to the women's 800.
Mm-hmm.
You got Michaela Rose, the 2 women from Stanford who went 1-2 last year. Shout out to JJ Clark, my old coach. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to those 3 battling it out next month at indoor NCAAs. But yeah, Michaela Rose, hands down, my highlight of the weekend.
Let us know your collegiate performance highlight of the week in the comment section below. Okay, we're going off of the collegiate athletes and we're stepping into the professional settings because there was a lot happening. We're talking about meets in Poland, France, Milrose Games, obviously. What did you think of the performances? Meets, what caught your eye this weekend? Because we watched a bunch of different things.
Yeah. I think one of the things that stands out to me is the consistency of some of the big names. Femke Ball, Grant Holloway, Julian Alfred. Very, very consistent. I think it's fair to say that heading into next month's championships, the World Championships, if they choose to go, they are the heavy favorites in their respective events. I think it's fair to say that. But it was also nice to see Christian Coleman take the 60 at Melrose. It was nice to see Arian Knighton run a fast 200 overseas. So the sprints, they're doing their thing. They're doing their thing. But we can't forget about the distance runners all over the world this week. There were fast miles, fast 1500s, fast 2 miles, fast 3Ks, too many to name, but the distance runners are showing up and showing out as well. So for me, it's just exciting across the board. I'm just getting super excited for Indoor Worlds if these athletes choose to compete next month. But again, I'm a sound a little biased for my picks on the pro side. Again, it's the women's 8. You had Alimu from Ethiopia went 157. I mean, it's February. And then you had Maloney from St. Vincent who went 158. So I know I'm picking 800. It's like, oh, that's her event. But you can't deny that these women in the 8 are rolling. So I am super excited. Again, if they choose to compete next month at Indoor Worlds, I'm excited for the women's 8.
That's the big thing is if, right? Because a lot of, everybody's gearing up for different things. And to some, they may not care too much about indoor, right? So they may skip it. But it's like the times that some of them are running right now, it's like, just ride that momentum, right? And try to get those accolades underneath your belt.
And go get that money.
Well, there you go. Come on. Come on. That's for somebody right there. Right? But the performances, and I like the word that you said, inconsistency, right? So much about track and field, before you get that big breakthrough, there's going to be some consistency. You may run for the 60, so you may run 660, you may run 6.5 and 6.5 and 6.5, and then boom, you put one race together, and now you're in the 6.4 category. I mean, we're talking about openers, Christian Coleman, since you just mentioned it, 651, like 5 years ago, like that would have won everything. But him being the world record holder, his standard is a little bit different from everybody looking inside in. But at the end of the day, 651 is a great opener. He's going to get it right. And I actually liked how he ran because he was not forcing the run. He was setting it up. To me, it looked like, man, he had that top end speed about to kick in at that point. Akeem Blake came back and ran 6:55 after running 6:4. I personally think he needs to chill out a little bit. And Akeem Sani Brown, right, 6:54. Then you have Jillian Alfred, 6:99. Sasha Forbes, 7:14. Destiny Smith Bryant, 7:16. Milrose. The hurdles, it's always competitive, right? And I think I'm going to save that for our performer of the week. But it was an exceptional weekend of track and field from the professional side, because now you can start to see everybody starting to get the repetition, And now they're starting to really align things up, gearing into their own respective championships if they have it, but ultimately gearing up for world indoors, right? So it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. We can't forget the Europeans as well, too, because they perform really well. So, which leads me to, with so many great performances, it leads me to, who is your performer of the week?
I am going to have to go with Josh Kerr. I mean, a new world record, indoor 2 mile, 8 minutes and some change. It was a phenomenal race. And yeah, I just have to go. I have to go with that. For those who may just be casual runners, he ran not 1, but 2 miles at 4 minute per mile pace. I mean, that hurts my legs just sitting here thinking about it. It's phenomenal. And I know you're a big Ingle Brixton fan.
Shout out to Ingle Brixton, man.
So it's gearing up to be quite the showdown between those two in the 1500 meter this summer at the Olympics. So both of them they compete fearlessly. They're not afraid to say I'm the best, and I just love it. And that's a matchup I'm looking forward to at the Olympic Games. So shout out to Josh Kerr.
Let me ask you this, right? After running exceptionally well, I don't know how it is in the distance side. That's why I'm asking. In the sprint side, like, you know, your body's feeling nervy, like everything hurts a little bit. But when you run exceptionally fast like that, what does it feel like? Like, what recovery wise, like, do you go back to the crib and sit down? Or because sometimes we see athletes run fast and we don't see them for like a month. But from someone like him, what does that feel like?
Yeah, I mean, Josh announced early in the year that he was going for this record. So him and his coach sat down and planned for this race. Personally, I don't know. Shout out to his coach, Danny Mackey, tremendous coach.
Oh, shout out to Danny Mackey, man. Shout out to Danny Mackey.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, I don't know what the next, of course, the Olympic Games, I would think is the next big goal. They have a while for that. So probably regroup. Hopefully he gets a little bit of rest, but knowing Kerr, he probably just wants to get back at it and grind. So personally, I do not know how they're going to attack it. I know that I would want a day or two after I set a world record to go
home. Fly back.
I'm going to see the fam. I'm going to celebrate. But Josh just seems like he's all business, and it seemed like he knew he was going to do that. So for him, his eyes are probably now just set on winning that Olympic gold.
Let me ask this follow-up question. When you are running that well, and now you've got that target on your back, how did you handle that type of pressure? Because now you're going to the meet, and people are just like, "Oh man, there goes Chanelle." Like, I'm turned up this week, you know, and that can be a lot to carry. So how would you carry that, world champion, right? How would you carry that into meet? Do people look at you differently? Do y'all have beefs? Like, what is that like?
I think my reputation any 800 meter runners out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you saw me, you knew that, okay, we're going to run fast today, because I just always took the race out. Oh. So I think that's what the 800 meter women, when they saw me, is, we're going out hard today, you know? And so I think that was kind of my reputation on the circuit. But in terms of handling the pressure, like you mentioned earlier, to the high schoolers, like just that outside noise, you got to get to a point where that stuff just doesn't, it's going to get to you a little bit, but you got to shake it off and just focus on, you know, I'm here to see if my training is paying off, what I need to work on, and I'm not here to prove anything to anyone. You know, this is just, for me, a stepping stone to greater things. Each meet is just, you're working on something. So you got to figure out a way to block out the noise.
My performer of the week, man, goes to the hurdles. I mean, Miss Charlton, 767. But as we've talked about before in the first episode, yes, running fast, absolutely. But sometimes it's how you run. Like, she got the push in the start of her life. Like, everything just hit. But she pushed out. I was like, yo, this is going to be fast. So she pushed, and the technique, and she just looked like everything was so solid and so sound. And I think sometimes in sports, you get into this state where everything is just so
Just clicked.
Yeah, right. Like everything that you've really worked, it doesn't happen a lot, but there are some races where you're just like, man, yo, that felt good. That felt great. Everything was clicking. And in that performance, I couldn't see a flaw in it. Like to me, it looked like if that was going to be 100 hurdles, that record, well, 12-12 is kind of serious, but it would have been close. It would have been somewhere there. But the fact how she ran that race, how she looked, who was in that race, the confidence, the push, the execution. I'm a big execution guy. So for me, it looks so good, so efficient, and everything just clicked. And when something clicks like that, whether you like the person or you don't, you have to respect it and you have to show love. So I thought her performance was exceptional. Again, it doesn't always click as an athlete. I think sometimes we take that for granted. Right? World records don't happen often. It can seem like it does, but it does not happen often. And so for me, the execution, how she looked, and the world record that came with it, man, Miss Charlton was out there rolling. She is my performer of the week. Notice I have not picked a sprinter yet. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. So we want to know, who is your performer of the week? Let us know in the comment section below. We move forward because now we're talking about meets to come. And one of the meets to come is U.S. Indoor Championships, indoor trials. What do we think about that? Because, man, your country is one of the hardest teams to make across the board.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, it's who shows up, right? We just don't know yet who's going to be there. But saying that, the U.S. is so deep, no matter who shows up, we're going to send a good squad. So let's make that very clear. Even if the quote unquote superstars don't show up, we're sending a good team. That's just how deep we are in each event. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the hyped up 60-meter showdown between Noah and Christian Coleman. I think those two will be the two that go on to Indoor Worlds for the USA, but they got to show up this next weekend and get there. So I'm excited for that showdown, and I know you are as well.
Yeah, and just so we're clear, for those who, man, if you're heavily involved in track and field, then you probably already know. But for those that don't know, it's top two indoors. Top two, right? So most countries, they don't have trials, right? They just pick their top two fastest athletes and they get to go. But certain trials, when you have so much depth, you have to go to a trials like a USA, and the UK has to do it as well too. Shout out to everybody over there in London. So I'm looking forward to seeing just the competitive field. Who's going to be there? As you said, in America, I mean, you guys are so deep. I mean, we just saw what happened in the men's 60-meter hurdles, right? Mr. Beard, I don't remember his first name. Mr. Beard, 7:44. Yo, come on, like that's fast. You know what I'm saying?
This man said he works at the deli in Walmart to make a living on top of training. Shout out to him, man. Look, somebody sponsor this dude.
But that's the reality of the sport. Like,
I've been there, done that. Yes.
And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But since we're touching on it briefly, it's like a lot of people that you see on TV who are at these things, at these performances, at these world-class level, man, financially, it's tough out there. And they may not have the opportunity as some of the other people have. Like some of these people, they're going to practice and they're going right to work. Right? That's just the reality of what it is. But if they're able to capitalize here, because you guys get paid in the US, right?
US indoor trials.
You get a little something.
A little something, not much, but
a little something goes. Hey, we know how to make a stretch.
Well, I think that's why a lot of the big stars don't show up, because they would say that's chump change.
I'm
but for some,
every time,
for some people, that's life changing. So it's just there. Depending on. Me too. I was there too. Yeah. Because
we don't get paid in Canada. You know what I'm saying? Which we should. It's a different conversation. Anybody want to talk about that?
Your trials outdoor, you don't get paid.
Nothing.
Is there indoor Canadian US trials?
No. I mean, there's Canadian championships, but I mean, you don't have to go. I mean, they pick who they want to pick, right? So it's one of those situations. Indoors, anyway. Outdoors is a little bit different. So, but yeah, we're looking forward to seeing who is going to show up. One, obviously, we haven't really seen the start list yet, but who is going to show up? I think it's going to be great. Going to be competitive. I'm expecting fast times. Is it in New Mexico?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really expecting fast times.
Yeah, on the sprint side, but
you better believe it.
That's altitude for distance runners. That's hard.
Okay. Well, so we're expecting fast time in the sprints.
Tactical races.
Tactical race in the distance side of things. But again, this brings us one step closer to indoor worlds. And indoor worlds always going to be fast times across the board. So looking forward to seeing it. You're looking forward to seeing it.
Tune in, support. I think it's on Saturday, NBC maybe. I'll find out and put it in the comments. But yeah, support those USA athletes who are going to be competing for a spot for that team.
And we're not going to make any predictions right now.
No, we don't even know who's going to be there. So.
Yeah, so that's why we can't really say what we fully think who is going to win, because we are going to get into that. I believe we should do things like this because it brings more attention, more awareness. And sometimes when we're out of the sport now, and sometimes when you hear somebody say, "What? You think they're gonna?" It brings that up a little bit more, because any type of motivation is good fuel, and so it kind of brings out the best. So again, looking forward to it. It is happening this weekend. Make sure you tune in, get your snacks, get your coffee, little pancakes. Maybe I want some pancakes right now. Can we have some pancakes?
Yes.
Okay. So let us know what events you're looking forward to the most in the comment section below. As we are gearing down to the last two things that we're going to be discussing, I thought it would be fun and interesting to talk about some of our indoor performance failure stories. Do you have one in mind?
Yes, actually. Indoor USA's 2014. 2014 for me was kind of like my rebirth year.
Wait, that was the year you won.
Okay, well, I still have a failure story.
Okay.
So it's like my rebirth year. 2008 to 2012, struggled in college. Talked about that. 2013, first year pro, struggled as a pro. 2014, got things right mentally. So it's like, oh, she's back. She's looking different. She's looking good out there. Going into USA indoor trials. So now I'm one of those athletes showing up because, again, money.
Every time.
Trying to get a contract.
Every time.
Trying to put my name out there. Like I said, I'm back. Trying to get these companies to see that I can perform against the best. So first round at indoor trials, easy peasy. It's in New Mexico as well, so it's altitude. So 800, you got to be careful. I would say altitude kind of affects us. Maybe not, definitely not as much as the milers and the 2 milers.
Because it's hard to breathe.
Yes, but some people would say, 800, no, it doesn't really affect them that much. So I was careful in the first round. Going into the final, I'm like, okay, got to get top 2. Got to make this team. I'm rolling. I'm hitting the splits that JJ tells me to hit. I'm out in the front.
Do you remember those splits?
28, 58, 128, like clockwork. That's one thing about me. I'm going to hit some splits. I'm going to hit some splits. And so I'm coming around that last lap. I can see the tape. I can smell the victory. I'm leaning. The crowd's going wild. I think they're cheering for me. No, they're cheering for Ajay Wilson, who at 799 meters, so I've led the entire race. At 799, she leans, gets me at the line, and all we could do is look at each other and laugh because it's like, really, Ajay? Really? You had to do that to me, I needed the money.
I thought they were saying Nelly.
That's one thing about me, though. I wasn't very aware that, looking back at my career, because the same thing happened to me in college against Charlene Lipsey, LSU, SEC outdoor my senior year. I'm running the 8 and coming down the home stretch, the crowd is going crazy. I should have known they weren't cheering for me. We were at LSU and she ran for LSU, but I thought I was running fast and they were just happy for me. And I just wasn't aware. So I'm coming down the home stretch. They're yelling. Here comes Charlene, just coming. She gets me at the line as well. So, but yeah, back to indoor failure stories. Don't really know if that's a failure because I did make the team. You know, I did make the indoor world team that year, but it hurts when you lead the whole race and then you get caught at the line. But all love to Ajay. That was a great performance. But yeah, that's my failure story.
So you got outleaned twice in that.
Oh, I've got outleaned plenty of times.
What's up with your lead? You better, you don't. Come on. You gotta work on that. That's a good story. I don't think I heard that one before.
We'll have to go back and watch the race.
Yeah. So for me, it's a real failure story. So we also watched Tyson Invitational, right? And I never ran well at Tyson for as well as much as everybody says, yo, Tyson is fast. Like, that's your story. Wasn't necessarily my story. So this is what, 2012, right? Is my first year. Nope, 2011. 11-10. First year at Barton Community College. I'm coming off of injury, so it took me a while to get going. And I'm new to this system in America. Junior college, you know, we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, we have to. So,
but anybody that knows me, like, I didn't really do too much in track and field in the sense of like studying or knowing many people. I'm Jamaica through and through. So guys like Asafa Powell, Nesta Carter, Michael Frater, that's people that I know. Didn't really know much on the American side, but my teammates was just like, yo, we're competing at Tyson. I'm like, oh, dude, what does that mean to me? Nothing. So we go to Tyson, and I remember it specifically, and this is how you know it still hurts, right? So I'm in the race, and I got thrown into the fire. This is like maybe heat number 3. I'm popping it off. Teammates are in the heat after. I'm popping it off, and we're all hype and amped. And coach is like, yo, it's going to be great. Shout out to Coach Nigel Bigby. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to set this thing off for my teammates.
Because for Barton, sorry to cut you off, for Barton, going to a big meet like Tyson, that was one of your bigger meets.
Yeah. And at Barton, like, yo, we are known for, this is sprint factory. Mm-hmm. Like, we do this.
So you're going to show up and show out. You're going to represent. That's your mindset.
My mentality. So I'm in like, I had a good lane too. I'm in like lane like 3, like kind of in the middle. And so in this race, it was Jeff Demps. Didn't really know much about him. It was a guy named Stanley Z who went to Illinois, Terrell Wilkes who went to Florida. And there was another guy. It was another guy in there as well too. I can't remember. And so I'm in there in my head like, man, these cats aren't ready for me. Keep in mind at this time, my season best was like 689. You're laughing too hard. Don't be laughing like this. 689. But you couldn't tell me nothing. I'm confident, feeling good, had a solid week of training. And then I knew something was wrong because the announcer started announcing personal best. You know, man in lane 1 was like 703. I'm like, oh, I know I can get him.
Wait. Oh, 703. Okay.
Yeah. Lane 2 was like 695. I'm like, he's getting closer, but I'm like, okay, I know I'm not going to come last. And then they say, you know, Akeem Haynes, personal best of 673, because that was my time coming out of high school. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't a 673 athlete at the time. Right. I was coming off the injury, 679. And then things got real interesting where he said, and Jeff Demps was a personal best of 6'5". I said, oh, I look fast. I've never seen it in person. It sounds fast. I've never seen it. I don't know. Talked about Terrell Wilkes, personal best of 6'6", Stanley Z, 6'6". I'm like, yo, that sounds fast. Not really. Anyway, so I'm there in the blocks and I'm setting up and I'm like, man, Akeem, it's your time. It's showtime. Get out the blocks. Boom, blaze out. Shell the whole thing. It's just a wrap. Man, that man said, runners on your mark. Stat, gun goes. I look up in 3 steps and usually you're focusing on your race. Just run your race. Show you're focused on your. I'm like, yo, Demps is moving. I'm like,
oh my,
he's moving. I'm like, yo, Terrell, look at his knee lift. Stanley and Z. I'm like, yo, he's just up. And I'm watching all of them because they're in lane 4, 5, and 6. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm running straight, but I'm like, I didn't even dip
because it was over.
The worst part was I fell up the ramp and I ran slow. Demps ran like 655. Wilkes ran like 661. And that was the first time where I was just like, what am I supposed to do? Mm-hmm. Like that was, and I was walking back. Like, you know, it's bad when you're when you first, I fell going up the ramps. I was already embarrassed, skidded up my whole arm, embarrassed. And I'm there walking back with my hands on my hips, like, yo, as if I was tired. I wasn't tired. It hurt.
You're just stunned.
I didn't know what to do.
What just happened?
Exactly. So
where do I go from here?
What am I doing here? So, but it was funny because it was an introduction of to like, yo, if you want to compete at that Division I level, you're gonna need to run these Division I times or somewhere close to it. So it was a tough bus trip back to Great Bend, but it's a story that stuck with me, man, because it, usually when you tell certain stories, sometimes there's some good that comes from it. The good came later, but in the moment I was just like, yo, these guys are rolling. So
that's a really good segue into our last part, because I want to know, how did you let that go? I mean, you were stunned.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer, and this is something that I learned when I left the University of Alabama. Well, at the University of Alabama, where I got a little better with it. For me, my whole thing has been, if I didn't hit a specific time, the whole race was a wash. Nothing good came from it. I was merely time-based, because so much of track and field is time-based, length-based, height-based. And that can be very detrimental to an athlete's progression, because if you don't hit the times, it doesn't mean that something good didn't come from that race. And it took me a while to understand that. So how I let go of it was I had to learn to have short-term memory, because the thing in track and field, once the season gets started, is you have next week, you got to go again.
Yeah.
The week after that, you got to go again. So if you take last performances mentality into this week's preparation for that, it's not going to work in your favor. You have to say, again, learn this at 21. I started to say, because to me, every race would be like, man, Akeem, you didn't run good. It was terrible, man. But it wasn't helping me in a positive state for Monday in training. So I started saying, man, instead of saying what went wrong, well, what went right, man? Man, okay, so you didn't run the time that you wanted. You didn't run 10, or you didn't run 10-1. But man, you had a great start. That's something that you can work with and to build off of going into training. So I tried to have short-term memory, to let go of it. But every Monday, I always tried to come back with something positive to say, I had a great start. My technique was a little bit not good at the end of the race, but man, your execution in the first 30 was really well. Because when you're always taking negative things into the next training cycle, man, you're going to start behind the 8 ball. You're going to start at -1, -2, when you should be in there starting at least at neutral, 0, so you can build forwards. So for me, I had to have short-term memory, and I tried to find something good out of every performance that didn't go in my favor, so I could have something positive to build with during the week and leading up to that next performance. So that's how I was able to let go of a bad performance. It took years to get there, but it did shift my mentality moving forward into Olympics and so forth. What about you? How did you let go of a bad performance?
That's good. That was good for me. Same thing. It took me a long time, probably around same age as you, 21, 22. I was someone who would run poorly, and then I would sulk for like you said, Monday, Tuesday. In college, JJ Clark is just trying to get me back to a neutral emotional state so that he could push me in training. Because like you said, I was so down and just discouraged, and it's hard to train and get ready for the next performance when you're feeling that way. So, I mean, everything you said was right on. But JJ started to say to me, Chanelle, you either win or you learn. Let's just say, we didn't win or lose, you win or you learn. And that just started, like you said, you can take something from each race. And so what you didn't win today, but what can we learn from this performance? And a good example is that was in 2014. I didn't win a lot of my 800s that year, but JJ learned, and I learned in time for World Indoor. When I did win, we took lessons from each 800 that I ran, and we put those lessons together, and that was the performance that you saw at World Indoor. So I think that stood out to me throughout what he taught me. Win or learn. What can we take from this? So yeah, but everything you said, it hit deep. It hit deep.
It's so much of sports is mental, right? And if you take yourself out of it mentally, your body's going to follow. So it's just making sure that every single week, every single time after a bad performance, you start the process of getting yourself in the mental state to attack Monday and not worry about the next meet. You got to attack Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before you even can think about the meet. There's training days there that we got to make sure that we maximize. So for all the pros who are going to listening to this, and even for those who are, high school athletes, collegiate athletes, what are some ways that you let go of a tough performance? Because this isn't just something that is relatable to sports. It's relatable to life as well, too. Maybe in a job force, like maybe that presentation didn't go as well as you thought it would. Maybe you forgot, stumbled over a couple words. Well, got to let go of that because there's more to the performance and more in the year that's going to come in your favor. And so we need you to mentally keep yourself in it. You can keep yourself mentally in it. There's a good chance if you're consistent with it as well, too, then the result will be different for the next time that you're faced with a challenge like that. That was a great show, man.
I think so.
That was a great show. So again, thank you for everyone that has taken the time to like, comment, share, listen, watch, have it playing in the background, whatever the case is. We appreciate each of you. We don't take your eyes, ears for granted. Definitely like, comment, share, subscribe. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. And again, this is Run Your Race, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.